Hello, welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris. Thank you so much for joining me. In this episode, I'm going to go over the difference between a hobby reseller and a reseller that does it as a business. It's not a knock on either. In fact, I think most people want a side hustle hobby that earns a consistent $2,000 to $5,000 per month, and they don't want a reselling business, and I'll tell you why. Step one, and the main difference between a hobby and a business is just schedule. If you look at, let's say, a pizza restaurant, they have distributors bringing them supply early in the morning or in the afternoon. They're not coming in at lunch and dinner when they're busy. That time is crunch time. They've got to earn as much money as possible. They have staff working there. The staff is not coming in whenever they feel like it. They're coming in at specific times, and there's more staff during busy times of the day. If you are running a business where you have high-powered people like a lawyer or a surgeon, you don't bother those people when they're doing surgery. It's very important. Okay, but if you are a hobby reseller, anyone can distract you for any reason. If you're sitting at home in front of the TV, watching Netflix, listening to music on Instagram and listing an item here or there, anybody can walk into your life and just disturb you. The difference between a business owner and a hobby seller is definitely the environment and the schedule. Scheduling is number one. So if you want to transform yourself into being more of a business, definitely just adjust your schedule. That being said, if you think about most small business owners, they're not just working 40 hours a week. They're working a lot longer than that. They're working usually 60 to 80 hours a week and not necessarily making more money, especially with reselling when it's so energy. It takes so much energy to resell that you're not necessarily going to be able to double your effort and earn double the money. You're going to get exhausted after about 4 hours of working with reselling. To me, I don't even want it as a business. I want a 4-hour gig and I want staff. If you want to know the difference between people who make a ton of money reselling and the people who make a smaller amount reselling, it's just leverage. They have more capital, more help, and that doesn't happen overnight. Even if you have a bunch of capital, you can't just hire people and you don't know exactly what it is that they're doing. You have to slowly build processes over time, which is the second thing. The second difference between a hobby and somebody who's doing it as a business is procedure. You can't list in a different place in your house every single day, different coffee shop, take photographs in your car sometimes, in your closet sometimes, in the bathroom sometimes. That type of context switching will drive your brain crazy. It also makes your store look really crazy when every single picture is in a different place in your house. That's not a business. That's just you doing it whenever you have time. Nothing wrong with that, but it's very difficult to scale when you have to think of how you're doing it every single time you do it. I recommend making a process chart so you know exactly what happens at every stage in your business so you're not guessing. The next thing is probably the biggest difference between a pro reseller, in my opinion, pro as in professional person doing it for a living, earning $50 an hour or higher. That's what I consider a professional. It's not my definition. It's the reason why people get an MBA. People get an MBA degree hoping to make 100 grand or more. That is the number one reason. When you ask somebody, why did you pay $250,000 to go to school? It's the answer, so I can be skilled enough to earn 100 grand or more a year so that's worth it. Whether or not that's worth it or not is arguable, but my point is that's the reason they do it. So a person that earns $50 an hour is always an expert in a niche. There's no such thing as someone that goes in and randomly looks at everything that's cheap. Professional deal hunter, they are not earning $50 an hour consistently. The people who earn $50 an hour consistently are the people who specify in a specific niche, and they can go to a specific place at a specific time and talk to a specific person and get consistent supply. Consistent supply is the key to building a resale business. Once you have consistent supply, all it is working on processes. You can ask anybody who's been reselling for longer than 2 to 5 years if supply is their problem. Usually it's not supply. It's only a problem when you're first getting started because you're not an expert in something. But once you start understanding, okay, I am a Nike seller. I know which outlets sell Nikes. I know what time the sales are. I know what time they're stocking. I'll give you guys an example. I used to live on 119th Street in Amsterdam in downtown Manhattan. Actually, not downtown, in Manhattan on the Upper West Side. And at the time, my friend Kenny visited me from Hong Kong and he said, "Do you want to flip sneakers?" And I said, "Sure." And he's like, "Well, I've been looking for someone to stay with in New York City because there's a new store on 125th Street called House of Hoops." Now, there are House of Hoops locations all over the United States, but at the time, that was the first one. I remember our first flip from that store, which was the Tony the Tiger dunk. And he said, okay, I don't want to play fair. What can we do to get more of these shoes at the same time? So with the manager, at the time, what we did was we figured out that they had a bracelet system when they were doing releases. And so you could go there and get a bracelet and then come back in the day of the release and hook it up. So what happened was we found out that the manager was definitely dirty. And if we gave him $500 per release, we could get 10 wristbands. Okay, so it's no longer a system like that, and that manager is no longer there. But what we did was we ensured we were the first people in line. We would get a set of bracelets. One person in line was enough to get 10 people a bracelet. So when we showed up, we could get 10 pairs instead of one. That is from being really specific in a niche and knowing, is that shoe even worth getting 10 of and paying that $500 premium. We also knew the stockroom manager. His name was War. I'm not sure if War is still there. War was letting us know what supplies were coming in, how much of each shoe was coming in, how many size runs were there. And what we were doing is picking the size runs with the least number. So for example, if there was only one size 9, because sometimes that happens, we would get that size and we would know that the market would be basically easier to get a higher return because there's a lot less supply in that specific size. That's really understanding a niche. And when you do that, you basically give yourself a huge advantage over everybody else who's just going in for luck of the draw. Now we're going to talk about deadlines versus no deadlines. If you are running a business, sometimes you are taking out credit loans, sometimes you're taking out a bank loan, and these have deadlines. You have to pay a certain payment at a certain time. You've got to prepare yourself in order to properly pay those people back. So you have a specific number. I want to go from this size store to this size store. Right now I have 500 items in my store. I want to be at 1,000 in 3 months. This is how I'm going to do it. Deadlines and goals versus I just want to make some extra money so I can pay down some debt, or I just want to make some extra money for my family so I can go out. That's the opposite of a business. That's just somebody who's hustling on the side. Very difficult to build consistency when you do that, and it's just a telltale sign that you're doing this for fun instead of doing it like a business operation. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the 2 most powerful whys. This is really important because the why is the motivation for doing reselling to begin with. The number 1 reselling why, in my opinion, is the time to do what you love to do. This is the reason why you are doing reselling or looking for a side hustle or getting a job, is because you want the actual time and resources to do what you want to do, right? Now you can kind of cheat. Some people enjoy picking, I do. So you can kind of offset time that you want, like the things that you like to do, if they actually monetize. That is hugely powerful. But usually, in my opinion, passions don't monetize. Markets monetize. As an example, if you were the top seller of plungers in the world, you'd probably be a multi-millionaire just selling plungers. But I just don't feel like the person who's selling plungers is really that passionate about plunging. I just don't believe that. Okay, they've just gotten really good at figuring out what plumbers sell for, how to get them into department stores, hardware stores, how to sell them online and still be profitable. They have mastered that one niche. Okay, so they were able to create a lot of time for themselves to do something that they love by focusing on being really good at selling something. That's sort of what I recommend. Find a niche that's profitable, maximize it. Then once you take that money, buy yourself the time to do something that you love. I'm going to give you guys an example with my friend Reezy Resells. Reezy is one of the most talented instructors on Amazon, how to sell books, how to really crush it right there with it, right? But he's also not passionate about reselling at all. He's passionate about his family. He's passionate about vlogging and sharing his story. Now, that is not necessarily what his audience wants, okay? So when he talks about his family and he talks about stuff that's not related to reselling, the amount of income he makes is a lot smaller than when he talks about reselling. That being said, he's sort of offsetting it. He is doing things that he wants to do. And of course, he earns a little bit of money from it. And so that is reason enough to continue doing what he's doing. So I think reselling is one of those special things where you can just get joy from reselling, from just earning money from it. So I want to just point that out. Don't be scared to learn a new niche that you're not super excited about, because I do believe if you start earning significant money from it, you'll all of a sudden start liking it a lot more. And you can use that money to buy yourself some time to do something else that you like. That's the advice I wish I had received when I first started. Yes, Amazon is more boring, but Amazon is more scalable. So if you start learning Amazon, you start earning more money, guess what? You can now use some of that money to buy yourself time to do something else that you enjoy, like picking on the weekends at the thrift store. Makes less money, more fun, something that I'm gonna do the rest of my life because I enjoy it. Can I make an extra 2 to 5 grand in 20 hours? Probably. Do I wanna earn 6 figures doing it full time? Not really, at least not really definitely not by myself. With a small crew, for sure, but by myself, no. So appreciate you guys' time. Like, comment, subscribe. This episode, like all my episodes, is sponsored by my reseller field guide. You can pick up a copy for $35 in the description below. That really helps me continue to make this channel. Appreciate you guys. Take care.